Earlier this week, we received news that Zach Lavine told Billy Donovan that he will not get in the way of the young Chicago Bulls players. So I'm here to let you all know what's the best way that Zach Lavine can help this young Chicago Bulls team. And then there was a guy out there who felt the Chicago Bulls have some pointless players currently on the squad. Y'all know we're going to talk about it all, break it down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shot Bulls podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. If you're tuned in with me today, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer and closer to the start of training camp that starts next week, and then basketball will be back for your Chicago Bulls. Let's get ready to turn up and root on this young Chicago Bulls, even though we will be having headaches throughout this season, but hopefully a lot of exciting basketball to watch with this young Chicago Bulls team. Now, we know the situation of Zach Lavine, him going out there requesting a trade, but not really getting anything off the ground with him and the Chicago Bulls and another team, and other teams pretty much saying this is pretty much, we don't want you, big dog. But it seems like Zach Lavine has been a willing participant in what has been considered some of these off-season activities. We know Zach Lavine, along with other Chicago Bulls, just held themselves a mini camp down in Miami. And, things came out of that. But it was reported that Zach Lavine told Billy Donovan he ain't going to get in the way or stunt the growth in the development of the young players. It seems like he's trying to be a willing team member, a willing guy that's going to allow these young Chicago Bulls to thrive and grow as best as they can for the talent that they have on the squad. I say that's an absolutely great start for Zach Lavine. So what are some few things that Zach Lavine has to do, or what is considered the best way that Zach Lavine can help the Chicago Bulls? First thing first, I think you're always going to have to lead and begin with some type of leadership. In the leadership aspect, when it comes to Zach Lavine, I don't want to get into what took place years past. We know that DeMar DeRozan was that mentor type of guy for the young Chicago Bulls. And I think that has to now, that baton or that mantle now has to be placed in the hands of Zach Lavine. I'm not saying that Zach Lavine has to come out here and be some rah-rah type guy and absolutely change his leadership style from what we've seen in years past. But I think that with Zach Lavine now being the longest tenured Bull on the squad, he got to show some type of leadership. And I think right now what he's been doing has been some good forms of leadership. You know what I'm saying? Taking place in a team mini camp, showing up to different things. It's been reported that he picked up the tab for some of the younger players. It's being reported that my man's already said that he ain't going to get in the way of Billy Donovan and what he's trying to do for the young Chicago Bulls. And I'm hoping that he can first just lead by example. I think that's the best way to look at it. I believe that's the best way to go and attack it, and just look at everything from that side of, the discussion is just simply the leadership stuff. Show it and lead by example. Go out here. Don't have bad body language on the basketball court. Go out here and become a decent guy on the defensive end. Come out here and hold yourself accountable first, but then also hold these younger guys accountable. And while you leaning and getting closer and closer to the regular season and preseason and all this stuff, as we getting closer and closer and further down through the year, Zach Lavine really just got to be himself. Just be yourself, but be a willing participant as you continue to move on and get through this season. I think that's going to be one of the most intricate parts of what Zach Lavine is going to have to do for the young Chicago Bulls. That's what it's going to have to lead with. The next thing, or the best word, another way that Zach Lavine can help the young Chicago Bulls is just living by the statement that he put out there. Live by that statement. He pretty much came out and said, I'm not getting in the way of the young guys. Cool. Now live up to that. How do you get the best out of Josh Giddey, who's coming in from OKC with a chip on his shoulder? How do you get the best out of Kobe White after you went down what he was able to do and place himself in the most improved player conversations? How do you allow Ayo Dosumu to continue to be himself, but now elevate his game to another level to where he can place himself perhaps maybe in a 6-man of the year conversation? Who knows? But then there are so many other things that he's going to have to live up to when it comes to this young player development. We also talk about Dalen Terry and his effect. We've seen the workout videos, but he got to still put it on wax. He still got to bring it on the basketball court. How does Zach Lavine help? You know what I'm saying? Dalen Terry in that regard. How do you look at and address the young Thunderbolt in the Henny bottle that you got in Montes Buzelis, Chicago's very own. I think that Montes Buzelis comes in with a different mentality that could potentially collide with Zach Lavine. I think I will say that that could be potentially something to watch out for, because I really, really believe that Montes does respect the game, but we do know after a while, depending on the player, on who it is, they can have the mentality like, bro, ain't nobody on this team want to see me. Don't nobody in this NBA want to see me. I know that Montes Buzelis is not this guy, but I have to bring it up just as to provide some type of context. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Montes Buzelis is good as Anthony Edwards. I'm not going that far. We just comparing the situations to just provide an example in context. When Anthony Edwards got on the Minnesota Timberwolves, we can go ahead and pretty much all agree that the best player on the team at that time was Karl Anthony Towns. But as time went on, the charisma, the confidence, the belief in himself in Anthony Edwards showed like, hey, this man got the mentality. Hey, this man is starting to take over the leadership role. Hey, this guy's constantly speaking out. I don't know if Montes Buzelis is going to do things to that level of an Anthony Edwards, but I wouldn't be surprised. Would you? Would you be surprised if Montes Buzelis came out and showed more confidence than what we're used to seeing in a basketball player? Wants to hold guys accountable, wants to step up as a leader. Yes, he's a rookie, but at the same time, we've seen rookies do crazier things. Will the reins be given to Montes Buzelis early on? Probably not. But a lot of the times, the same thing going back to the Anthony Edwards situation, sometimes you just don't have a choice but to hand over the keys. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm sure he didn't really want to hand over the keys, but he didn't have a choice because of the man that was on his basketball squad. I don't know if that's how Montes Buzelis is going to address everything, but I have to keep that in mind when we're talking about his mentality matched up with Zach Lavine's mentality, who I believe his mentality is like, bro, I'm the best player on the Chicago Bulls. This my stuff. This my team. This my squad. No more DeMar DeRozan. I got to lead these young guys. He can very well come in with that mindset. And how does that bode well or match well with Montes Buzelis is going to be another thing. And I think the final way that Zach Lavine, a few more ways, actually, I think another thing to add on to the point, excuse me, fumbling over my notes over here, but you got to allow these players to be themselves, Zach Lavine. I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, going back to the initial point or the previous point of living up to the statements. You have to allow these young guys to, you know what I'm saying, be themselves. Kobe White, you got to allow him to be comfortable. Josh Giddey, you got to get him comfortable. My man's talked about his time at OKC and not being able to string together a number of games to build momentum. How do you allow Josh Giddey to build momentum for the better sake of the Chicago Bulls? But then I also think that the best way, that the ultimate best way that Zach Lavine can help the young Chicago Bulls outside of leadership being my number one. Number two, I'm pretty much saying out of everything else that I mentioned, number two is Zach Lavine has to take care of himself. Just go out there and be yourself. Number one, be healthy. Number one, be engaged. Number two, show some emotion for the squad. Turn up for the squad. You know what I'm saying? And when we talk about Zach Lavine, I want this fella to go ahead and attack the paint a little bit more. Last year, my man's only averaged 6.5 points in the paint. Years prior, you know what I'm saying? A year prior, my guy had 9 points in the paint. And then in his all-star years, 10 points in the paint. So to see that my guy's a 10 points per game scorer when it comes to paint scoring, because we know his athletic ability, you can't be 6 points. Let's get back up to that 9-10 point mark. That means that's letting me know that Zach Lavine is more aggressive. I think a more aggressive Zach Lavine is necessary for this young squad. Ain't no taking no backseat. Ain't no, you know what I'm saying? And when I say taking a back seat, I'm not saying that he should just strong arm the development of the young guys. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is that with as talented as Zach Lavine is, he does not have to take a back seat to still get his money and earn his money, is the whole point. With DeMar DeRozan on the squad, Zach Lavine was still the second leader scorer by literally a point during his years that he was healthy. You know what I'm saying? With point scoring behind DeMar DeRozan's those years he was healthy. So I'm looking at the point scoring. I'm looking at the ability. Do those things. Be a Be a competent defender as well. Doesn't necessarily have to be great. Just don't be a turnstile. Don't be a cone. You know what I'm saying? And the last part, I think Zach Lavine within himself can help the Chicago Bulls if he just get back to what he was when it comes to shooting that 3-point ball. Last year was a down year for Zach Lavine at 34%, but he's a career 38% 3-point shooter. Let's get that back up. You know what I'm saying? Let's get that back up. And I will say this. Is it too much to ask Zach Lavine to increase his assist total? This is a guy that averages around 4 assists per game, maybe 4 or 5. Is it too much to ask after last year of giving us 4 assists per game to try to get it up to 5.5, 6 assists for the better, for the sake of the team? And do we believe that's possible when it comes to if Zach Lavine can provide that for the young Chicago Bulls? I think that if he becomes a better assist man, and it doesn't necessarily have to translate when it comes to the box score, but if we are watching the game and he's getting those hockey assists per se, or you know what I'm saying, the NBA assists per se, I think that bodes well for the Chicago Bulls and lets me know that he wants to get others involved. He doesn't want to take away. He wants to be more of a team player if he's able to increase that assist total, along with bringing back up the 3-point shooting, along with attacking the basket a little bit more and being a better defender, or at least a competent defender. I say he helps the Chicago Bulls in a major way. And that's not to say the Chicago Bulls are going to somehow win 40 to 45 games. That is not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that can help the play style of Zach Lavine can help the Chicago Bulls potentially maximize their potential. That's all I'm saying. The goal right now is still 30 to 35 games. The Bulls could very well change that as long as Zach Lavine is leading the way and all the players are in great position, you know what I'm saying, aided by the assistance of Billy Donovan and his coaching staff, but also the other guys who need to buy in if they want to be better than just a play-in team, because that's what the ceiling looks like right now. So you let me know all your thoughts below. Let me know how y'all feeling about that. But before we get up out of here, I ran across an article from Pimpin' Ain't Easy. Pimpin' ain't easy. We talking about Scottie Pippen. That's how he spelled it. Pimpin' ain't easy. But nonetheless, the guy that did the article, I want to show love to him. I thought it was an interesting article, and I'm not too mad at it. So I wanted to break it down. The fella, Aaron, I believe is his name. So excuse me if I screw up on that one. But he listed 3 players on the Chicago Bulls that are pointless to have on the squad. Number 1, Javon Carter. Number 2, Chris Duarte. And Buck, brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. He said Lonzo Ball is a pointless player on the Chicago Bulls right now. When we talk about Javon Carter, one of the reasons he was mentioned as a pointless player for the Chicago Bulls was due to not only because of the money he was making, but also the disappointment from him, Javon Carter. And then the also moving into next season with the belief that, hey, he played 14 minutes per game last season, but there is not much room for him on this squad for this season, is what it looks like. And when you talk about that aspect, I can't really be mad at it, but I will push back in this regard. I know Javon Carter irks everyone's nerves. I know he irks my damn nerves when it comes down to certain things that he was doing last season for the Chicago Bulls. But I will urge the Chicago Bulls to just keep him around a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, I don't know what type of veteran he is. I don't know if he's the mentor type. I don't know if he's the rah-rah type. But I do say, hey, you need some type of veterans around the squad just to kind of help balance things out. So I wouldn't be too mad at Javon Carter, sticking around just for a little bit longer. Now, if you ask me what would I prefer, that's a different answer. What I prefer is the man to be off the squad along with a few other players, so we really could be embracing the youth movement. It's nothing personal to him. It's just I want the direction of the Chicago Bulls to make a little bit more sense. It makes some type of sense, but I needed to make a little bit more sense. So I wouldn't be too mad at keeping him around a little bit longer. Now, when you talk about Chris Duarte, I think that the reasoning behind that, if I remember correctly, was simply just based off what you have on the team. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's a fair point. You already loaded with guards, you loaded with forwards. Chris Duarte, he got a little size to him. You know what I'm saying? Supposed to be a 3-point shooter or whatnot. Not mad at it per se, but hey, I ain't really got much reason to fight for a guy that just got here. And you know what I'm saying? I'm to be honest, I'm being a little selfish and I'm being a little bit unfair. I'd rather see the Chicago Bulls players that have been here receive an opportunity before Chris Duarte. Not saying that he can't help the Chicago Bulls. Not saying that he can't translate into something that's necessary for the Chicago Bulls. But me personally, than being a little bit unfair, I'd rather see an extension or a step forward from Dalen Terry. I'd rather see more minutes be given to Montes Buzelis for the sake of his development and what I believe he can bring to the team. I'd rather see Ayo Dosunmu not have to worry about if he's going to get minutes or how many minutes he's going to get. He's going to get those minutes, but when you got with an already crowded, you know what I'm saying, backcourt and all these guys that's sitting there, I want to eliminate any confusion. Any confusion. I don't want to give Billy Donovan no ideas. I believe that Ayo Dosunmu was going to have designated minutes regardless. But I don't want Billy Donovan screwing this up for the sake of just screwing it up. And the last player that my man's mentioned in the article, he talked about Lonzo Ball. Pretty much saying he's a pointless player. Now, I can understand that to some degree, and what was broken down within the article is saying that Lonzo Ball, if you were to trade him, no team would really want him. At best, you might get a second-round pick out of him. Wah. And that's all based on if he's healthy, getting closer to the deadline, and you have to find some team that's willing to trade for him. Cool. But I will argue and push back this for Lonzo Ball. If you're the Chicago Bulls, what else you got to lose? That's all I'm saying. I understand that this could be looked at as pointless. I don't look at Lonzo Ball still being with the squad as pointless. Has the time with Lonzo Ball being with the squad been frustrating? Absolutely. Has been frustrating not only for him, but for us as well. Obviously, he's going to be the more frustrated person because he's gone through those injuries. And we're going to be a little bit more frustrated because the fans want to see him play. So I say, if you already gave up 3 years, damn it, why not just give up one more for the sake of Lonzo Ball? Out of the 3 players on this list, I'm going to agree with Leroy Carter. Pointless. You know what I'm saying? I can feel that. I'm going to look at Chris Duarte. New guy. I can feel that. But Lonzo Ball, bro, look, you've been here. You've been dealing with him for 3 years. Try to get something out of him while you got him. You ain't going to trade him. And if you do trade him, a second-round pick gives me nothing. That's all I'm saying. Like, and you can, it gives you something. Hey, who knows? The Joker came out of the second round. You know what I'm saying? You can potentially find something, but the chances are very, very low. So I'm saying, hey, just approach this season for what it is. Give this man ample opportunity to, you know what I'm saying, come do something for your squad just to kind of pay that investment to see some type of return on your investment. but they also allow him an opportunity to continue to play basketball, even if it's not with the Chicago Bulls. You already paid 3 years to this guy. You can pay one more, bro. You can literally pay one more because and then just let him bounce up out of here. This team is gonna need some of his abilities that he can bring. You know what I'm saying? If he's deemed healthy and can stay healthy for a while, I believe his passing ability is gonna be something. I still believe that the 3-point shot is still gonna be huge for him. I still believe the defensive communication will be there. I don't know if the defensive play will be there. But I do know that the defensive communication will be something necessary for the Chicago Bulls second unit because that's where I see him playing and thriving, especially coming back off of 2 years of being out of basketball. So, yeah, I think you hold on to Lonzo Ball just a little bit longer, but I wouldn't have too much care in the world if Javon Carter or Chris Duarte were let go before the start of the season. But I say you give Lonzo Ball an opportunity. I say you give a guy like that an opportunity to see if you can get some type of return on your investment. But hey, that is it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out. You still got a couple more days to call in if you want to give your take on anything Chicago Bulls and be a part of that mailbag episode that's going to take place this weekend. You can find a number down in the description below, and you can always call 773-242-9219. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Always see red, and you already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace out, y'all.
Cognac. Gang.